Welcome to Justice in Two Languages.
Welcome back to Justice in Two Languages with attorney David Elias Idinopulos, founder of Elias Law in Albuquerque, New Mexico. David is a bilingual Spanish-speaking attorney dedicated to helping New Mexicans recover after serious accidents and hold insurance companies accountable when they play unfair. I'm Chelsea, and today we're talking about what it really means to fight for the underdog. David will explain why having a local lawyer who knows your community can make all the difference. Welcome back, David.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Elias Law was built on the idea of justice for all, not just for those with money or for those with connections. So what does fighting for the underdog look like in your day-to-day work?
You know, I had a client once who came to my office and he was covered in drywall dust. He had been working all day and he walked into the office and he said to me, you know, I like coming here because I know no matter what I'm wearing, you guys will treat me the right way. And that for me kind of says it all. Drywall dust, dirty from working out in the field, dirty from working in the oil field, working in the oil patch, whatever the case may be, we want that client here. And we know who our clients are. They are, for the most part, working class people. They're blue collar people. Some of them speak English, most of them speak Spanish, and the vast majority are blue collar working class laborers. They can't always get here between our working hours of 8:30 and 5. So we will come in early in the morning. If they have to meet with us before they go to work, we will stay late in the evening. If they can't get off work until 6 or 6:30 or 7 o'clock, if they need to meet with us on weekends, we will accommodate them. If they need us to come to them, we will do that. And I have been to every trailer park, every apartment building. I have been on dusty roads in the middle of Eddy County, Lea County, Curry, wherever the case may be. But, you know, folks that are working class and particularly Spanish speakers, they have a right to justice, and we aim to give it to them.
A lot of people in New Mexico probably see these nonstop billboards from national injury firms. What gets lost when a client hires someone who isn't based here?
You know, I think what gets lost in a lot of cases, and I'm not saying that those guys do a bad job. I think some of them are very good lawyers. But the one thing that they all have in common is that the cases that they really want are the big cases and the clear cases and the uncontested cases. The cases where you really, really, really have to scrap for money and for justice, the cases where liability is not particularly clear and the client doesn't have a $1 million case. Maybe the client has a case worth only 10,000, 15,000. Heck, I've done cases where, you know, the recovery was maybe 3, 4, 5,000. But when clients with cases like that go to the big law firms from out of state, generally speaking, turn them away because it's too much trouble. My philosophy has always been, you know, if you represent those little cases, those people that don't have massive cases or for whom the liability is contested, if you represent enough of them, you will start getting the big cases because those people will tell their friends, their family, people they run into. You know, I had a case. I talked to 4 different law firms. Nobody would take the case. I went to the corner of Bridge and Isleta in the South Valley, and Abogado Elias took my case. Go see him. Those people tend to come back to us.
You've built your practice in South Valley, not like a high-rise downtown.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So how has being rooted in that community shaped the way that you represent your clients?
This is a footnote to your question. But I have, you know, I've worked in big law firms, and I've had offices in tall buildings with elevators, and I've been a street lawyer, and I'm a street lawyer. I have an office. You park in front of my office, you walk in. There's a Taqueria down the street, 1 block away from me, where we go and eat on a regular basis. People in this community know me, and it is way more fun, in my opinion, to be a street lawyer, to be a member of the community, to walk down the street and hear a car honk and people wave out the window and say, Abogado, than it is to be in a tall building with an elevator when your clients come in and sit nervously in the waiting room wondering what that experience is going to be like.
You mentioned in the first episode, if you guys haven't listened to it yet, about the turkeys at Thanksgiving. Perfect example of being a part of the community.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have on that note, we have a blast doing it. We literally fill our office with food. I mean, there is food coming out of the building. We store it in offices. We store it in conference rooms. And the other thing that I did was I partnered with other sort of organizations. So, I have kids. The Albuquerque and New Mexico is a soccer community. So I had 3 kids that were in soccer. Those teams were looking for sort of opportunities to give back to the community. I'm a graduate of the Ohio State University, and so I watch Ohio State football games every Saturday with my people. And the Ohio State Alumni Association was looking for a way to give back to the community. So we partnered with my kids' soccer teams. We partnered with the Buckeyes to give away massive quantities of food at Thanksgiving.
When a new client walks into your office after being hurt, what are they usually most worried about? And how do you help them feel more like they have a real advocate in you?
I think that they are worried about sort of it's a general worry more than anything else, but it's, am I going to be treated fairly? Am I going to be treated with respect? And can I trust the lawyer? And trust is not an intellectual concept. Trust is an emotional concept. You have to be emotionally invested in somebody to trust them. Clients come into the office, you can see them sitting nervously. The minute they realize, man, the receptionist is talking to me in Spanish. The person who's taking me back to the conference room is talking to me in Spanish. My paralegal's talking to me in Spanish. The Abogado is talking to me in Spanish. It builds that trust, it builds that respect. And then once you have that trust and respect, everything else falls into place.
And the whole office, in case you missed again in the first episode, the whole office is bilingual.
It is. It is. We've hired people that speak Spanish as a second language. We hired people who grew up speaking Spanish. We've hired people from Mexico, from Venezuela, from Cuba, from the U.S. I don't think we've had any Puerto Rican employees here yet. We probably will at some point. But as I say, my bookkeeper doesn't speak Spanish because she doesn't interact with the clients in the same way. And we have a lawyer here who doesn't speak Spanish, but everybody else speaks Spanish.
How do you balance compassion for clients with the toughness that's needed to take on large insurance companies or corporate defendants?
There really is no balance. You have to get invested in a client's story, in a client's tragedy, in order to pursue justice for them. There are times, obviously, when we have to have tough conversations with clients. Look, I'm sorry, we've investigated. The case is not what we thought or what you thought it was. But when you believe in a client's story, when you believe in a client's dignity, in a client's goodness, that makes you want to go to bat for that client. Again, these relationships are built on trust. And trust is an emotional component. And once you get sort of pulled into what the client has experienced, that's when you say, by God, we're going to do right by this person. Can
you share a story, without names, of course, of a case where local knowledge or community ties made a major difference in the outcome?
Yeah, I can. I had a client who came to me who said that she had been sexually abused while she was an inpatient at a hospital. And at first it didn't make any sense to me. And then I started asking her, tell me, what's the background to this sexual abuse? And she told me, and I won't go into all the details because obviously I have to, protect the client and I have to observe the attorney-client privilege. But she sort of told me where the abuse happened. Right now, if you're somebody who is not from this community, the idea that something happened in a park. And something happened here and something happened there, it may mean nothing to you. But when you sort of see in your mind's eye these locations, it begins to take on sort of a realness to it, right? And so what had happened was She had been an inpatient at a hospital facility. She was sexually abused there. And when she would get out of the facility, somebody who worked at the hospital would go to the park with her. And so there was a relationship going on that should not have been going on. And again, she started telling me things happened here, things happened there, et cetera, et cetera. And, you start developing in your mind's eye a picture, and it becomes believable. And so what this lady told me is that she had called something like 9 other law firms, and 9 law firms had turned her down. She tells me the story, gives me the picture, and I say, you know what? I have no idea where this case is going to go, but we will take this case. And about 9 months later, we settled that case for a lot of money.
For people who are listening who might feel intimidated about even the step of hiring a lawyer, what should they expect from a first meeting with a truly local firm like yours?
We're the same as anybody else, right? I shop at Walmart, right? I go to Ross for Less and TJ Maxx. I've actually run into clients in Mexican restaurants, down the street at the Taqueria, at the Walmart, et cetera, et cetera. We're no different than anybody else. I got a mortgage, I got a car note, I got a wife, I got kids. The kids are in schools, they get good grades, they get bad grades. We are no different than anybody else. We have the same problems, the same issues, the same concerns, the same loves, the same passions. We are the same people. I didn't come from any money. I grew up working on construction sites. I worked in restaurants. I delivered pizzas. I washed dishes. I get how tough it is for the working class in America and for working class Spanish speakers. And I know how important a case is. And as I say, large out-of-state law firms, they want the creme de la creme of cases. They want the big cases with big recoveries that are uncontested, where liability is easy. And that means they turn down a lot of cases for clients who might have a meritorious case, but it's going to take some work, and the recovery is not necessarily going to be so big. But, we're members of the community. I don't want to run into a guy at Walmart and have him tell me, me fragaste, you screwed me. We are here. Our reputation is on the line every day, and we take it seriously.
You mentioned some firms will treat cases just like files. So how do you make sure that every client still feels seen and heard throughout the process?
I tell every client, and this is the truth, we are a business. I tell every client, look, the paralegal is going to be working on your case. For the most part, you will be talking to the paralegal until at certain steps of the case, I have to step in. But if at any time you feel that you are not being heard, if at any time you say, hey, I haven't heard from the Abogado in a while, I wonder what he thinks, I wonder if what the paralegal is telling me is true, I tell them, you can call me, you can meet with me. If your paralegal is not answering your questions and you can't get over to the office, I will come to you. My door is literally always open. And there are many times when I get a message and the client says, hey, the client called, she's asked this question of the paralegal, but she wants to hear it from you. I got no problem with that.
What drives you personally to keep standing up for the underdog? After all these years, you're still doing it.
It's a good question. I never exactly knew what my life was going to be like. I didn't know where my life was going to go, and I had a lot of issues growing up. I was a troubled kid. I was a troubled teen, and doing these blue collar jobs kind of saved me. It gave me discipline. And it gave me affirmation. People told me that I was doing a good job when I worked on the construction site, when I worked in a kitchen, when I washed dishes, when I did all these jobs. And so I think I've always sort of related to the kinds of clients that walk into the office. The other thing is this. I grew up as a kid playing a lot of basketball. I played more basketball in dirty gyms than you can possibly count. I played thousands and thousands of pickup basketball games in my life. And when you play pickup basketball games, 1 minute you're fighting with guys on the other team, the next minute those guys are now on your team. and you learn to be competitive with them. You learn to fight with them, to argue with them, to squash it with them, to move on with them. But most of all, you learn to compete. And so, I don't look like maybe a blue collar guy, and I might not sound like a blue collar guy, but my roots are blue collar. I have never worked for insurance companies. I've never worked for corporate interests. I was a public defender starting out. And those are the people that emotionally I sort of align with.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you again, David.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
To learn more about attorney David Elias Idinopulos
Got it.
Idinopulos and his team at Elias Law, visit Abogado Elias ABOGADOELIAS.com. You'll find resources in English and Spanish on the website to help you after you recover from an accident and protect your future. Thanks for listening. And again, don't forget to leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks, David.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.